Well, Rue, no trades for Howie Roseman, but still a pretty exciting night.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, uh, never imagined Nakobe Dean would be there in the third round. Um, I mean, they got two players that were not really on the radar, but two players that make a lot of sense where they got them. I think they got really good value with both of them. We'll see how they pan out, but certainly a fascinating couple days.
Yeah. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Day two of the draft in the books. Rube, let's go chronological on this one. We went out of order yesterday. I want to go in order today, and I want to start with Cam Jurgens, the center out of Nebraska, the 51st overall pick. It's a pick that was met with a lot of skepticism from fans, and I get it. And I'm kind of with them in a lot of ways because you look at this team and they have so many areas where they could use help this year, and they just drafted a center who, the best case scenario is he doesn't touch the field this next season. And that's a tough pill to swallow for a team that went to the playoffs last year, that wants to go to the playoffs this year. Now, if he becomes their long-term center after Jason Kelce retires and he's here for a decade, then we're going to look back at this pick and say it's a great pick. But on a night where you were like really hoping, if you're an Eagles fan, that they would get someone to make an immediate impact, this pick didn't do it.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to what we were saying when Howie got the contract extension. That really enables him to take the long view and do what he feels is best for the team over the next 5 years as opposed to this year. And it's certainly, look, it's hard to get excited about a center, although I think he's got a chance to be a pretty good player, and he's a really interesting prospect. But this is what they're gonna do. They're gonna build with the two lines, and it goes back to when Andy got here 23 years ago. They're gonna build. They're going to build up front on both sides of the ball. And, how he talked about it, he said, we obviously have needs in the secondary, but I'd rather take a player at a different position than reach for a defensive back. And philosophically, that's correct. And, a couple safeties went just before the Jurgens pick, and there's a little mini run on second round safeties. And, I agree. It's hard to get all jacked up about a center, but if he's going to Pro Bowls in 3 or 4 years, then it's a hell of a pick.
Yeah, it's in a lot of ways, it's similar to the pick last year of Landon Dickerson, because we didn't think he was going to play his rookie year. If that was the case, if everything went to plan, Landon Dickerson would not have played his rookie year, and he ended up playing quite a bit and playing well enough to really feel good about the pick. So it's a weird deal there, because on one hand, you don't want Cam Jurgens to play this year. You want Jason Kelce to be healthy, and you want him to play out this season. But if for some reason you do need him, I mean, we saw last year what an adventure it was when Kelce needed to leave the field for a few snaps, having Nate Herbig out there just throwing balls over Jalen Hurts' head. I mean, you can say they have backup centers, but do they? I mean, do they really have backup centers? Nate Herbig, they've tried to teach how to play center, and he hasn't been able to snap the ball. Landon Dickerson can play center, but he's a guard. He proved that last year. And then Isaac Seumalo was a center, in 2016 when they drafted him. It's a long time ago at this point. Who knows if he can play center? I think he could, but I don't know if he really can. So, and who even knows if all those guys will be here? We know Landon will be here, but we don't know about Seumalo. We don't know about Herbig necessarily. So, getting a backup center makes some sense, and it is a unique circumstance where they're basically going to have Jason Kelce train his replacement.
Yeah, the Kelce connections are run deep. They're both undersized guys. That was a big criticism of of this kid was that he's too small, he's athletic and too small, and that's what people were saying about Kelce just a few years ago, till he kind of had a second half of his career renaissance. You sent me a stat about their combine. They're the two fastest combine times for centers in the past 12 years. What was it 4.89 for Kelce, 4.92? I think that's what it was for.
That's it. Yep.
Jurgens. So and then you have the fact that Howie and Nick involved Kelce in the evaluation process, and they listened to his opinions. Kelce loves him. The kid studied Kelce. He met him when he was here. I mean, there's just so many connections. It's in that. Look, that doesn't guarantee you anything. It doesn't mean he can play. I wonder if he could play right guard. I wonder if they would cross train him at right guard, where. Who knows?
I think you cross train him for, depth purposes, but he's a center. Like he's a pure center.
Probably. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting pick. It's as interesting a pick as a center can be. He's got a beef jerky company. I mean, he's
his nickname.
Yeah. Beef jerky
is what do they call him? Beef jerky, right? Beef jerky.
Yeah. But he's he's got an edge. He's got a nasty streak. I think he's a player that, if he is what the Eagles think he is, I think fans will like him. But yeah, it's just
you got to wait.
But again, I just, you know what? It's a hard thing to do, but I think in the long run, it does make a lot of sense.
Let me ask you, though, from a resource allocation standpoint, you draft a guy in the second round, you got him for 4 years on that rookie deal. Are you cool with one of them being a redshirt season?
Yeah, I think part of it is just how confident the team is that they can re-sign guys who they want to keep. Obviously, that wouldn't be a cheap deal. I mean, if they want to keep him, he's going to be getting a lot of money, or as much as centers get. But yeah, it's a concern. I mean, unless you're in the first round, I mean, the team has you for 4 years, and everything after that isn't guaranteed. So these are all concerns. I mean, there's no question about it. But I mean, he could be gone, or he could be here for 10 years and make a bunch of Pro Bowls. So. I think philosophically it makes sense. I think it's hard for any Eagles fan or any football fan to get excited about drafting an interior lineman. I mean, even tackles, you get more excited about tackles. But in the second round, 2 years in a row, you take an interior lineman. I know people weren't too excited about Landon Dickerson last year, and he played great. I mean, he played really high-level football at left guard. For this team, especially after maybe the first few weeks, and he really grew into the position. So that's how you build. They have this incredible tradition of offensive linemen here. They have the best offensive line coach in the business. And if you're going to be an Eagles fan, you just have to accept that they're going to just keep taking linemen on both sides of the ball as long as Howie is here. That's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, and it's almost like they've earned that if you're talking about Stout. And in this case, Kelce, too, because, look, Kelce's not a scout, but he has a good eye for this stuff, you'd imagine. And he said this kid is his favorite player in the draft, and he said they've done this the last few years. They've shown him some prospects, and he said this is the guy that reminds him most of himself. So I get it from that. And it has been cool. He's been on the draft show on Bleacher Report. So 2 nights in a row, we got to see some pretty cool clips of Jason Kelce on Thursday night getting excited about the Brown trade. And then on Friday night getting really excited about them drafting his replacement, which is kind of a funny thing. But he's going to embrace it, and that's another big part of this is he has the right personality to be. Some guys wouldn't. I mean, some guys, if you draft their replacement, like they're not going to be thrilled about it. They're not going to, maybe they wouldn't be like rude to the kid or like go out of their way to, push his books over or something like a bully, but he's actually going to help him. He's going to make sure that if this is his last season, they're going to be able to continue with him next year.
Yeah, it's a little different than most instances where a team drafts a guy's replacement because Kelsey's going to be here as long as he wants to. So he's the one that's going to decide when Jurgens plays. You know, it's not like he's getting replaced, getting cut or something or traded. I mean, he's you know, I think he's going to get benched for this guy. And I've told the story before about when the Eagles drafted Lito and Sheldon and Troy Vincent. I'll never forget the first minicamp. You know, they drafted those guys to replace Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor. But Troy's at his locker, at Lito's locker, and Sheldon's there. And I needed a quote from Troy about something, and he talked to those guys for 45 minutes, and they're finally done. And I said, "What are you talking to them about?" He said, "Passing along the keys to the kingdom." And that was his way of saying, I'm teaching them how to be pros, how to, you know, who to surround yourself with, who to trust, how to invest your money, you know, how to study, how to watch film, how to practice, how to talk to your coaches, all that stuff. He was just sharing all the wisdom he had accumulated in the NFL and the keys to the kingdom. And Lito and Sheldon did the same thing for younger players when they were veterans. And you just keep passing it along. And I think Jason Kelce, as much as anybody, would, you know, be happy to do that. So there's a lot of value in that. And I think Fletcher will do that with, you know, with the first round pick. So, you know, you just kind of keep passing it along and you know, just, I mean, if you're building a roster of good people and quality people, they're going to do that. They're going to, you know, they're going to help their successor out.
Yeah, and we sometimes it sounds a little hokey to talk about a culture of a building, but those are the kind of things you care about when you're looking into, you know, when they do these extensive studies to try to figure out the character of the players before they draft them or before they sign them. I mean, that's a good litmus test in a way. It's like when you're getting older, will you help the younger guys learn the things that someone once taught you?
And we've all seen guys that don't do that,
mm-hmm.
You know, and they don't have to. I mean, there's nothing in their contract that says they got to help. You know,
it was really funny. Howie brought up the Packers.
Yeah,
and I mean, I don't know if that's the best example.
Yeah, he brought up Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and I think Brett Favre was pretty vocal about, you know, I'm not helping him.
I'm not his coach. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for the coaches to do. I think Aaron Rodgers was, yeah. Well, anyway, that's beside the point. But yeah, the point still stands. But again, the main thing is, can he play? And you know, we'll find out. I mean, he's the guy. I mean, he is the successor to Jason Kelce, whether it's next year or the year after. And it's funny because Howie said, I hope he plays forever. You're basically saying, I hope my second round pick doesn't play. I think we all understand. I mean, Jason Kelce is going to be 35 this fall, I believe in November, entering season 12. I mean, we're just so lucky to have had him here for so long and you know, just one of the all-time greatest Eagles. And it's going to be, you know, it's going to be bizarre when he's not here anymore, but they've got a guy they believe could be his successor. And it's going to be fun to watch the two of them interact over this next year.
I mean, they drafted his successor once before. I mean, they drafted Isaac Seumalo, and the thought back then in 2016 was like, this is going to be the guy to take over for Kelce. And 6 years later, they drafted. It's like Brady in New England. They kept drafting his successor, and he just kept playing and playing and playing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Football's really cool. I love this sport. This is just
we're a podcast like, I don't know, like what, 235 and you know, football's all right. I like it.
It's great. It's like just all this stuff, just the people and the relationships and the culture building. I mean, it's a fun team to be around from that standpoint. And I don't know if they're going to be any good, but there's a lot of good lessons that come from being around some of these people.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. You know, the backlash was pretty immediate from fans. And look, I realize that Twitter's not always the greatest judge of that. And sometimes I fall in the trap of like reading too much into the initial reactions there because it's normally a a vocal minority, but it's a tough pick to rally around. But then the Eagles, I think, really helped themselves in the court of public opinion with their next pick, because they take the guy most fans wanted them to take at 51.
Well, I was going to say, I think what also helped was the Kelce connection. Like when Kelce is, championing a guy, it's hard for fans to say this guy can't play. When Jason Kelce's saying, well, I think he can, because now you're going against, an all-time Eagles great. And, I tweeted out a quote. He said, just because you're a center doesn't mean you can. I think we both tweeted out. Just because you're a center.
It's a great quote.
It's a great quote. Just because you're a center doesn't mean you can run down the field and knock out a safety. I think, was that the quote?
Yeah.
I had like 200 people say, okay, now I like him.
Yeah. Yeah. You start to sell yourself on a little bit more, because they're like, hey, look, if you have to wait a year and he ends up being Jason Kelce, you wait that year.
Yeah.
And it's a tough thing. And I'm still conflicted on it, because this is a team that was a playoff team last year, and they have so many holes. And I'm not saying you reach, but it's a tough deal to take a center there. It just is.
Yeah, and I mean the secondary is hole number 1 and number 2 and maybe number 3 at this point. And I mean they've taken care of. They've made some good moves at linebacker. They've added a stud receiver, an edge rusher. I think they've addressed some important needs. They've added a beast in interior D line. It's a secondary, and Howie is pretty blunt about, like, we understand that we have work to do. You're not gonna replay. You're not gonna. I think the quote was, "Every team has holes right now, and we have till September." He understands that they need people. They need defensive backs. Now, the longer this goes into the off season, the harder it is to find them. But in any case, as far as Nakobe Dean goes, really interesting scenario that, I mean, this happens a lot where these injury rumors and reports and anonymous this and sources said that come out and hurt a guy's draft stock. And with him, it was the pec. I mean, I saw a bunch of tweets, people saying he'll probably have to sit out the year. He's going to need surgery. He might need surgery for the pec. Howie was pretty clear about he's going to be at minicamp. He's going to play this year. He doesn't need surgery. He's fine. We did all the medicals time and time again. And the kid said, this is, it's hard to sit there and hear lies about you. I kind of set him up on the quote. But yeah, I mean, he said, just the look on my mom's face as I was dropping, and just because these false reports, and it cost me a lot of money, which is true. I mean, even if it was a early second round pick, and I think some of the concerns might be that he's undersized, but I think the pec was, and Howie even said the pec is why he was dropping. People thought he wasn't healthy, and I still don't know if he is. I mean, we'll see, but the Eagles are pretty convinced that he is, and he won't need surgery, and he's going to be fine. So the difference between a second round pick and a third round pick it's a lot of money. It's in millions of dollars, and certainly between first and third. So you feel for the guy. Somebody drops every year like that. He dropped a lot, and he dropped right into the Eagles' laps.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel completely okay about it, even after hearing them talk, because, I mean, every team in the league passed up on that guy knowing he's a first-round talent. And I get that it probably gets to a point where other teams are looking at him like, well, why aren't they taking him? Why aren't they taking him? And then it kind of snowballs. But, I mean, I think there has to be some legitimate concern there. I was surprised how emphatic Howie was about it being fine.
Yeah, he said, when we were thinking about making the pick, he said, I called our medical people 4 times. Like, is there something here? Am I missing something? Is there some reason he's not going? Is there, like, did we miss something in these medical evaluations? And they're like, no, he's okay. Pec strain, if it's really a pec strain, then it'll heal. I mean, and he's not going to have to hit until the summer, until August. So, we'll see. Pec strains can be, I mean, if a pec injury can sideline you for a year, it can end a career. So I don't know. I mean, I saw a report that the NFL's own doctors sent every team a letter saying that he was cleared and he's fine. Um, yeah, it's an interesting drama that unfolded with him, and I never dreamed he'd be there at 83, but there he was.
Yeah, and I mean I think that was part of the angst a little bit at 51 was like people wanted the Eagles to take him, and they got him significantly later, and
They thought about it.
that's what they said.
Yeah,
it's amazing that they always seem to draft the guys they really wanted.
I believe it though, because it made sense. I mean, Howie said we thought about it, but Jurgens, we just, I mean, makes sense that you would, if he's there at 51, you would consider it. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, sure. If you have him clean medically,
yeah.
So I will say, I mean, even if Howie came out and said, "Hey, like we think he's fine," and there's obvious concern. There has to be some level of concern, right? There just has to be, based on him slipping that far. But at that point, the value, like you're in the territory pretty late. What's that? The 19th pick in the third round.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the territory there where it's like, even if there is concern, the upside and the value is so great for a player who's that good. You can gamble there. I think they probably feel a lot more comfortable gambling there than they would at 51.
I'm just doing the math. You're right, 19th pick.
Well, it was the Saints pick, so.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. In the third round, certainly.
No, it was Eagles pick. Because they had 19. That was their original pick.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm totally fine with taking him where they took him.
Oh yeah, me too. I am. The image of like everything is just pristine and clean and nothing to worry about at all. I'm not buying all of that. I think there's a reason to at least like wonder if it's. But hey, if it works out, I mean, they got a really good player, and it's not a bad strategy to just take Georgia players from that defense.
It's interesting. I mean, Alabama, Georgia, how we talked about, we want winners around here. And I think it was a very, there was a stretch there where they were taking guys from, non-elite programs, and sometimes those guys work out, but you can't go wrong. What did Howie say? Howie was pretty, what's the word for it? Howie and Nick were kind of over the top in their presser tonight or this morning or whatever it was.
Punch drunk, I think.
They were punch drunk. But Howie said, you go to Georgia, it's like it's like one-stop shopping. He's like, let's draft the whole team. I think he said
it's not a bad strategy.
It's not a bad strategy. And Alabama and Georgia players the last couple of years, I mean, they're taking guys from, 5 guys. I mean, obviously, Jalen transferred, but that's 5 guys that won national titles playing for Georgia or Alabama. And he talked about how these guys know how to win. They know what it takes to lift up a team when there's adversity. Yeah, I mean, that was a big thing during the Super Bowl run in 2017. How many of those guys had played on Super Bowl teams? Chris Long and Torrey Smith. I mean, LeGarrette. Those guys had all played on championship teams that they brought in. They knew how to win. I think there's something to that, and there's something to getting guys that just played at the highest level. I mean, the SEC. It's like if the NFL had a minor league, like AAA, Georgia, SEC would be AAA baseball. That'd be the Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, or Allentown, or whatever the heck it is. I don't know, but you can't go wrong. Well, you can, but you have. Yeah, I like your chances taking guys from those schools, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and the other players from Georgia that went in the first round were really good. But if you were to just watch games this year, just as a fan watching games, I mean, to me, the 2 guys who would stand out the most were Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's value in taking, and I think Nakobe just talked about this. It's not easy to, you get drafted, you come into a foreign city like Philadelphia, and
No, Philadelphia is in the country.
it's metaphorically foreign.
So
Not metaphorically. What's the word? Non-literally, but anyway, no, it's a huge adjustment. So now you have, I mean, they're very close. Now you have a guy, you just spent the last couple of years with, and you have somebody you trust who's around you. I think, to have a support system built in like that. That's not why you draft a guy, but it's a nice little, bonus for taking a couple guys from the same school.
yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how they line up.
Sure will.
They get out there. You'd imagine, I mean, all of a sudden your starting linebackers are Kaiser White, Nakobe Dean. I mean, does this push TJ Edwards to the bench? It probably does.
I would think so.
And you probably still use them on some base packages, stuff the run. You probably, I mean, maybe you make Nakobe Dean, bring him along slower. I don't know how you're going to do it. You're technically going to have Hassan Reddick as your Sam, so he's technically going to be a starting linebacker. I'm really curious to see how they deploy the linebacking group now.
Yeah, I think TJ Edwards probably goal line and short yardage would be on the field. I'm not sure he's going to, have much of a role beyond that. Look, I like him, and I like what he stands for. Undrafted guy who just turned himself into a legitimate linebacker last year. He played pretty well, but look, they're linebackers as a group. I mean, you got to get better, and they have. And I think he'll be on the team. I mean, he can back up. He's going to play special teams. I think he'll have a role, but I think it'll be a much smaller one, and that's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at that group now. It's not bad.
It's not bad, and it's so weird to say that.
Yeah, you have Nakobe Dean, Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, Davion Taylor. Not bad. Sean Bradley, who I think is serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been a long time since you could say that. I mean, I thought their linebackers played well in 17.
And Hassan Reddick, if you want to throw him in there.
Yeah, I mean, but you had you had Bradham played really well that year, played really well, and Kendricks played well, but
and Hicks did before the injury.
Yeah, Hicks was playing really well. He wasn't there for the run, but this is a pretty imposing group right now, and I think you have to kind of change. Like, we're so used to just like, our linebackers suck. I smacked my head on this door. You got to kind of rethink the narrative on the linebackers. They got some good players.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Who put this door here anyway?
All right, anything else on this Nakobe Dean pick?
No, we kind of covered it. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to give credit to Cam Jurgens for doing a conference call with media during a tornado warning in Nebraska.
Yeah.
I guess they're used to it out there. Yeah, it's scary, man. You ever been in one of those?
In a tornado?
Warning?
Warnings, yes. Yeah, I mean, back in the I guess it was in like March. I don't know. Whenever those tornadoes hit a few miles away in like around Lansdale, that area. Yeah, they flew like a couple of miles away. Yeah, I was. Yeah. I've been to Kansas when in tornado warnings too, and they're used to it. They just like head right to the basement and they come right back up when it's over. But that is some scary stuff, man. Those things can just destroy a neighborhood. There's a neighborhood in Montgomery County, and I'm trying to think of the town. It's kind of near Willow Grove, and like you can still see where like it just there's still roofers working. It's just kind of swath right through this one patch of houses, and it's terrifying, man. But he was doing a conference call in the middle of that.
Yeah, he was, and I'm still proud of my joke. Can I tell it?
Yeah.
Most draft prospects say when they get picked, it's a whirlwind, and for Cam Jurgens, it might be. All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast and jokes like that, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods.
I think you should share your your linebacker lead. I think that was good.
Reviews are welcome. What was my linebacker lead?
This is what Dave wrote on his Nakobe Dean story, and this is the first paragraph of his story is called the lead, or it could be a couple short graphs, but this is what Dave crafted tonight.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to get it verbatim, but something to the effect of the Eagles finally drafted a first-round linebacker. They just did it in round 3.
That was good.
You'll also like the kicker to my story on Jason Kelce and Cam Jurgens, because I'm a little punch drunk too after 2 days and no sleep. So I had a little bit of fun about cows and beef jerky.
I can't wait to read that one.
All right. Yeah. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the like button and subscribe there as well. We appreciate it. You guys really seem to like the day one pods. We hope you like this too. And we'll do one more after the draft concludes on Saturday. For Reuben, I'm Dave. We'll talk to you soon.